Hey friends, welcome to Power Parenting. As always, our goal is to connect church and home by equipping parents to be the primary faith trainers in their home. My name is Meghan Landi, and I'm so glad that you have joined us. And today I am in studio with my friends, Kendal McMahon and Chris Kincaid, and we are talking about boundaries in parenting. And Kendal, parenting is one of the toughest jobs in the whole world,
Totally.
Is it not?
Yes.
Okay, and so just kick us off and tell us why are boundaries in parenting so important?
Well, I think we first see boundaries as an important thing when we're reading Hebrews 12. It says, no discipline seems enjoyable at the time, but painful. So we already know that. Later on, however, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So when I read that, I think about setting boundaries in your home. And boundaries are an agreement between the parents that are explained in a moment of calmness that help provide structure and safety, home expectations, school expectations. You can kind of glean some good information from Dr. Henry Cloud in his book, Boundaries for Kids. He says that children need boundaries to feel safe, secure, and loved, because we know that children thrive when they know it's expected of them.
That's right. And I think we all thrive when we know what's expected of us.
Yes.
But also having boundaries and calmness sometimes seems like almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right, Chris, I know your family is in the thick of boundary setting. The ages of your children, you are setting boundaries. And so talk to us kind of what does that look like when you recognize that a boundary needs to be set? And then how do you communicate that with your family?
Yeah, I think that's really important to recognize that need for order first and foremost in your home. But then secondly, I think what we typically do in our family is we recognize the need for order in some area of our life with our family. And then I talk with my wife about it, right? So I'm not going to establish a boundary without first getting on the same page with the person that I'm married to and like parenting these kids with, right? So we sit down and we have a conversation and we see like our need for order in the house and like in whatever area it is. So like some of the more recent ones, like establishing a healthy bedtime routine and rhythm to get our kids down early. We decided we needed more order and structure with that, or hitting our sibling. We talked about that earlier. That's something that we needed order in. So we sit down, we have that conversation, and then we explain those expectations to our kids to make sure they understand, hey, here's the boundary we are placing. And then sometimes whenever they cross that line, here are the consequences for not following that boundary, right, that we put in place. But all of it is to give order to our home so that we can all live lives that love one another well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Everybody on the same page. That's important. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but once we have the boundaries set, then they're going to do great, right? Nobody's ever going to cross the boundary.
That's right.
They are going to cross the boundary.
That's why you have consequences that
so
you were saying, Chris. The consequences are so important. And when you're explaining the boundaries to the kids, you've got to say, and if you don't do this, then this happens. And one thing that we can do as parents is be really consistent with that. Whatever boundary line that they may cross, you've already told them, this is what will happen. Maybe it's taking a privilege away, something like that. But one thing that's really difficult in parenting is keeping our own cool, right? So it can make us really frustrated when kids blow past boundaries. But we've got to lean into self-control from the Lord and know that we can maintain a safe structure for them and provide the same consequence every time and not blow it out of proportion. That teaches our kids limits and it teaches them respect too.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, Chris, if you could give parents like one word when it comes to navigating boundaries, what would you tell them?
So there are actually two that come to mind, but we'll focus on the big one first. Consistency, like Kendal said. You want to be consistent, one, with that boundary, right? You got to hold the line. That way your child knows, like, hey, like this is what I can expect whenever we are in a certain situation. And this that gives them clarity, and clarity is kindness, honestly. Like that lets them know, like, hey, here's what I can expect in the situation with whatever boundary that has been put in place. And then consistency and discipline too, right? So you're going to have to be consistent in what you are doing as far as the punishment for a line or a limit being crossed, right? One thing I want to encourage with that consistency and discipline, right, is discipline should be not punitive, it should be restorative, right? So we're trying to shepherd our kids' hearts so that they grow and they can have limits that are healthy in their lives. We're not trying to punish them with the sense of getting back at them. It's to correct, right? We're correcting. So that's first, is being consistent with your lines and your boundaries and your discipline. Second thing I would say too is to be gracious, right? That's the second word that comes to mind. First with yourself. like Kendall said, boundaries are going to be crossed over and over and over again in some instances. And so that doesn't make you a failure as a parent. So be gracious with yourself. And then be gracious with your kids as they cross boundaries. Like they're gonna mess up. And so like show them grace and then ask for grace in return too. Like Kendall said too, sometimes we will blow up. I know sometimes my youngest child, he can cross a line and I'm like, oh, why'd you do that? But if my tone does not communicate kindness or love, to circle back around and ask for grace from my child, that communicates a humble heart and asking for forgiveness, and you're modeling repentance for your child too. So even in our mistakes, like we get to model grace with our kids, but showing them grace and receiving grace from them as we set these boundaries in their lives.
Right. That's so good. Yes. And that consistency, at times you can be like, oh my goodness, this is never going to work. But I can attest to the fact, not that we are perfect parents, but a consistency over time. Now, my 15-year-old, I'm seeing it click. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it didn't take 15 years. There were some, he got a little sooner than that.
How long is this long-term goal? Yes.
And so really, we're talking about being proactive in boundaries. And Kendall, I love how your family is proactive. And you have what's called a pregame talk. So talk to us about what that is.
So my kids do need lots of reminders of these boundaries to hopefully reach that end goal. But the pregame talk is anytime we're going into a situation where we know we've already set a lot of boundaries for them. So I'm super blessed to get to take my kids to work with me sometimes. But they need to know this isn't an extension of our personal space. This is my workspace. So before we get out of the car, I say, can you run down the halls? And they go, no. When we're finished and we need to leave, what are you going to do? Put our toys away. Are you helping me or not helping me? Helping you. And we give high fives, and then I give them a job to do so they feel involved in it. And they know every time that that's our boundary going into that. So I try to do those pregame talks to just remind them of our expectations that we've all agreed on together.
That's so good. Such a helpful tool for parents. Boundaries, they're so important. Discipline is hard, but the reward is great. When we use boundaries, we can get a great reward. Well, thank you, Kendall. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.